In fact, open up the mining sector, remove all those glitches which had literally bogged the sector down over the decades. So, as I am here to join this continuation of this reform exercise, first of which was launched by Honorable Prime Minister, and we see that within a matter of 2 years, less than 2 years, the ministry has really put in all the effort and intense work that is so required for these sort of very layered exercise. I won't say complicated, but layered exercise, in which clarity in the department, determination in the minds of the officers, and a certain level of dedication and commitment on the ministers, both Sri Rao Saheb Patil Danveji and the minister here, Sri Prahlad Joshi ji, have put in a lot of effort to make sure that the objective of unlocking the mining sector is really achieved. And in the last 2 years, they've kept the momentum up, that today, where the first tranche in June 2020 had 64 mines blocks opened up, today there is at one go 141 being offered. So I think it is a landmark development which ministries which are very, very important for the economy, such as the mining, have really taken the reform agenda forward and have gone into depths of it. I place on record my appreciation to the Minister Prahlad Joshi ji and also to the Minister Rao Saheb Patil Danveji for having taken this agenda forward with earnestness. But even as we talk about it today, for keeping the sustained interest in reform and policy-driven approach for opening up the mining sector, it is well worth a while for us to remember that being the fourth largest coal reserves in the world, India was still the second largest producer in the world. You have such a wealth of coal, but you're still only producing not as much as you can. The year 2020-2021 has now gone to further down to 41%, which is 26.99 metric tons. These are very clearly telling you the policy consistency. Whilst opening up of the block, transparent processes of coming out with auction, policy-driven, open, transparent process, equally bringing down the level of imports which are going on. If we are a country endowed with so much coal, it's nowhere justifiable if your imports keep going up and you're not opening up the coal blocks. But what is happening now, and to the satisfaction of all of us who would feel for this country, is they are making sure that the imports come down and greater transparent policies exist so that there is greater extraction and mining of coal in this country. Prahlad Joshi ji had already said it, but I would like to repeat that during 2013-14, the domestic coal production was 646 million tons. But under Prime Minister Modi, domestic coal production has increased by 20% to around 780 million tons. I'm talking about 21-22 provisional figures, which already the Minister has clearly highlighted has gone up. So with these observations, I'd like to appreciate and take note of the efforts being made by the Minister. We need greater investments, not just for coal. We need greater investments also to help in gasification of coal. I invite all of you to energetically participate in these auction processes which are being launched today, and keep your options also further extended for greater extraction of minerals in India, because India needs, during the Samrit Kal, India needs all the basic minerals. We are on a process of rapid growth. Even today in the morning, you would have read in some of the newspapers that Morgan Stanley, in one of its internal reports, has said that India is the place where investment should be. This is where action is. We are definitely creating a policy environment through which greater transparency and greater policy stability guides and invites investments. The next 25 years are critical for India, for both its growth and also for employment. And above all, in the last 8 years, you would have seen under Prime Minister Modi this consistent base for our energy requirement, even as we are looking for a transitional energy requirement in the form of gas. Base which is required through thermal power is what is going to be facilitated by the extraction and the mining of coal. And that is where the new policy brings on board states and their cooperation as well. The moment the states are able to cooperate and also allow for greater exploration of coal, you're going to be able to earn much more, because the policy actually directly then gives the revenue which is so much required for the states. I think 11 states in this case of the new policy can directly benefit from today's auction, because they are the ones who are going to be hosting these mines, and they are the ones who are holding this wealth of the coal, and this auction is going to open up their capacities, and with them on board, 11 of them are going to be directly earning all the wealth which is going to come out of this auction. And because of that, I think the sixth tranche takes a very big step forward in releasing greater resources. Prahlad Joshi ji referred to how the Finance Ministry has walked the mile with the Coal Ministry to make sure that coal gasification also gets enough priority and gets enough funding. And on that, we have really made sure that the ministry doesn't suffer. On the contrary, with the global gas prices being what they are, and with the uncertainties which are prevailing, India's coal gasification actually takes a very big importance, and that is where I think, as the minister invited all of you, there should also be equally, as you have shown today, equally interest to be shown in the coal gasification attempts which the ministry is doing. And the Finance Ministry has been very clearly with the ministry in ensuring that India's capacity or Indian stock of coal is also used for producing gas, because that is the route we have. The gas is going to be the transitional gas, transitional energy when we are trying to move from fossil fuels to renewable energy. So if the global prices of natural gas is going to go up, with us being blessed with a reservoir of gold, which is coal, black gold, we should now be in a position to be able to use the coal to produce gas and be able to help industries which so requires that. Where these coal mines are being spread will actually benefit from this. For the benefit of our media, I would certainly like to highlight the names of the states: Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu and Bihar are the states where these blocks are located, which are being put onto auction today, and that is going to really give them the necessary advantage because of the wealth which is actually present. I actually today feel very happy that the efforts of the Coal Ministries come to fruition. This is going to be one of the milestone events, as opposed to the very many number of attempts which were made earlier by the earlier regime. You see that the current exploration policy has actually helped in producing more coal. Just for statistics, under the UPA 2 government, the CAGR of coal imports from years, financial year 10 to financial year 14 was 23%. With only the intervention which has been cited by the minister as the steps taken to reform this sector, and subsequent to the reform, the distinct growth in this sector is noteworthy, and I would definitely want you to compare it with UPA 2 time. I've already mentioned that during UPA 2 government, the CAGR of coal imports from 10 to 2014 was 23%. Only with the intervention in the policy level, the CAGR has been brought down, of coal imports has been brought down to 2% by the efforts of Prime Minister Modi and Minister Sitharaman. 23% coming down to 2% in growth of imports. And this is for the year 15 to 19. Coal import by the power sector in total has been reduced by 41%. That is 26.99 metric tons in 21-22, the year 21-22, up to March 2022, from 45.48 metric tons the previous year 2021 imports. So that is what I think in the last 2 years we are trying to change the course of a massive ship which requires its own steering capacities and so on. So that is now being moved around to place the emphasis on exploration and mining in the country itself. I think that is what is important to be recognized. And India, which has a large reservoir of coal, the black gold, is now ready to do the mining and be able to commercially handle it. Days are gone since after the nationalization in 71 and 72, where we went about thinking that only a public sector company can really produce for the nation, and Coal India was tasked with that performance of produce coal for the sake of moving the country's development agenda. But unfortunately what had happened was the Coal India, and I'm not blaming anybody, but the fact is that it couldn't really ramp up its capacities as much as the country's economy demanded. And gradually, as the growing nation's requirement of coal became too much, there was naturally a call for importing, and we went about importing without much of attention being given for improving the coal production in the country itself. And I do recall that Prime Minister, during his address, during the launch of the first tranche, very clearly spoke about it. He said, we need to unlock the capacity. I'm actually looking for that particular line, which I thought was very evocative. He said, if the country has the capacity, and if we need to just be looking at it as captive market alone, you're not going to be able to make the difference. And therefore, we need to open up the economy, open up the mining process, and so on. So from the days where the nationalized Coal India was supposed to be producing, and from the days where that couldn't be achieved as much as we want, then we moved over to looking at policy which will be effective. And that is where, since 2015, the effort of the Coal Ministry, the Prime Minister Modi, there's consistency of policy, favorable atmosphere for investments and for manufacturing. So with these, I think India creates greater ambience, and above all, consultative process with the stakeholders is what is governing policy. I know Prahlad Joshi ji himself has sat through several consultations, just as we do it during budget. And Prime Minister himself, for every sector of the economy, holds his consultation. So keep the sharing of information, participation in discussions going forward as well, because that's what is going to help us guide policy, which will be favorable for businesses to work, and that in turn creates the virtuous cycle for the economy to grow. So thank you very much, Prahlad ji, for giving me this opportunity to be here, and also very best wishes for all those who are participating in these things. Thank you.